guys, it's Gretchen and welcome back to my channel. It is that time of the month again where I answer your body mod questions. If you're new here, this is something that I do on my channel every single month where you can submit your body mod questions, whether it pertains to me in particular or if it's just a general question regarding body mods. You can go ahead and submit them and it may be read in next month's Q&A. So if you would like to submit a question for October's Q&A, which how am I already saying it's October? I mean, I'm excited about that, but how am I saying that? You can leave them in the comments below, or you can go ahead and follow me on Instagram and wait for me to pop up the question box asking for those questions. So let's just go ahead and get started because there were quite a few questions this month. Ambo Pink Fairy asks, how do you feel about double piercings such as a double conch, double tragus, or double industrial piercing? Are these common or taboo? I've seen some of them here or there, but freaked a piercing retailer out when I mentioned a double tragus. So I've never really thought that they were taboo or anything like that. I mean, I guess there's a huge difference between a double helix piercing, which I have, and then something as a little bit more intense, such as a double industrial. I don't have any problem with them. I've seen double traguses done. I've also seen double conches done all the time. I've only seen a very few double industrials, which you have to have the perfect anatomy to do that. But I don't see anything wrong with them. I think a double conch is pretty cool actually. So I've never heard anyone say that those are taboo. I think the double industrial might be a little are you sure you want to do that? Because one on its own is bad enough as it is, but a double one, I can see where some people might shy away from that, but a double tragus and a double conch, if you have the anatomy to work with that, I don't see why it would be a problem. I personally don't have any problem with it. I just have a tiny tragus, so I would never be able to get a double one done. I could hardly get a regular one done. Emily asks, how did you learn to change your jewelry by yourself? It depends on the piercing, because for example, my Daith Doth, I will never change on my own. Never. That's why I've had the same jewelry in there for probably 3 years now. The one time I tried to change it by myself, it started to close up and I had to re-pierce it on my own, and that was terrifying. So it depends on the specific piercing as to whether or not I feel comfortable changing it. My lip piercings, super easy for me to do. One tip that I do offer a lot of people when they ask me is to have 2 pieces of jewelry when you're changing out a piercing. The one that you're gonna put in there initially, and then the one that you're changing out. The one that you're changing out acts as a guide. Have it in there. So for example, if you're changing your philtrum or Medusa piercing, depending on what kind of jewelry you use, I use threadless, so it goes from the inside out. So I would use a guide jewelry, putting it from the outside in, and then when I flip it up, I could see exactly where the jewelry needs to go. I do that also with my rook. My rook is a pain in the butt to change. I don't know why, other than the fact that I really can't see up under that ledge. So I always use a guide jewelry when I'm changing out jewelry, except for ear piercings. Those are pretty easy for me to do. Except for a tragus. A tragus is kind of a pain in the butt. But for other things like that, I use a guide jewelry, and that's how I change it out. Maddie asks, do you have any recommendations for where she gets some cute nostril jewelry that's a braid, but not just plain, but also isn't a corkscrew, L-bar, or nose bone? All of mine comes from my piercer. Everything that I have comes from my piercer. But you can also check out certain websites online. I know Urban Body Jewelry has a really good selection for threadless. Body Art Forms also has a really good selection of threadless. The stones might be plain in a sense that they're just little stones, but you can have a variety of options of what those stones look like. So I don't consider those plain, but that's where I look for online retailers. But for everything that I have in, pretty much comes from where I get my piercings done. Allison says, I'm planning on getting a septum piercing sometime in October. What's the best way to prepare myself just in case people make unnecessary remarks, on the spot questions? This one comes with time. When I first got my septum done, people made comments all the time and it got to me. I knew that people would make those comments, but I didn't realize that it would get to me the way that it did. I can remember so many comments on YouTube videos being like, oh my God, I can't believe you'd get that cow ring or that bull ring. You look like a cow now, you look like a pig. Over the years, I'm just like, wow, you sound really stupid when people make those kinds of comments, and it offers me a chuckle. It's kind of hard at first, but once you realize that's just them projecting with being insecure with anything that they may have, they just feel the need to put off their negativity on someone else. You can just sit there and be like, wow, your life is sad if that's what you have to say. It's just one of those things that comes with time. Just kind of anticipate that you might receive comments, and at first it may sting a little bit, but I promise you over time you're just gonna be like, Wow, you're sad.
Sarcastic Cat asks, in your opinion, what's the shortest time one must wait to get nostril post changed to a hoop?
The shortest time would be never. If you haven't caught on, I don't like hoops. If you are dead set on changing it, I would not change it until your piercing is completely healed. Because you gotta keep in mind, when your piercing is healing, if you have a post in there, it's healing straight. If you have a hoop in there, it's healing curved. At least with the straight one, once it's completely healed, and you put a hoop in there, it doesn't quite do as much harm. Whereas if you start off this way and then try to put something straight in there, it can cause a great deal of harm and irritation. I would wait until your piercing is completely healed. 6 months minimum. That's just my recommendation, mostly because I don't like hoops. Little bias there, I know. I would just wait until your piercing is completely healed before you change it out.
Melanie asks, I got my double helix pierced with captive beads. So after the 6 weeks, should I downsize the hoop or change it to a stud?
After 6 weeks, you can downsize the size of it. So if it's a post, you can downsize the length of it. If it's a hoop, you really shouldn't do much with it. Unless it's like a huge hoop and you just don't want it to be that big, then you can downsize it. Usually, if you're gonna change it back to a hoop, definitely go back to your piercer and do it. Don't do it yourself. But if you're doing a post, you just downsize the length. Unless you want to downsize the gauge too, but that's a whole other thing. But also downsizing is up to you. It's whatever you're comfortable with. You don't have to downsize after 6 weeks. That 6-week mark is just to account for swelling. So if you want to downsize, you can at 6 weeks, depending on the piercing, but you don't actually have to. It's all a matter of preference.
Mariska asks, not much piercing related, but what job do you do? Because apparently your job is all cool about your looks, so I'm really curious where you work.
So up until about a month ago, I worked in higher education. I worked with college students, and so they were pretty chill with my looks and everything like that. I did kind of force a little bit. You know, I did not start off this way when I started the job, but I ended this way. But I did leave that job about a month ago, and I am a full-time content creator and part-time graphic design student. So I am my own boss now. That's kind of cool. But that's what I did before, was work in higher education, specifically with students. Not sure I could have gotten away with this if I worked with donors or alumni, but working with college age students, this was totally fun. And it also depends on the school.
Selena asks, have you heard of the Mantis piercing?
I have heard of the Mantis piercing. If you don't know what the Mantis piercing is, I will throw up a picture over here so you can see what it looks like. I personally am not a fan of them, but a lot of people are. I don't know, that is just a tricky spot right there. It's on the tip of the nose. It is not for me. I would not get it ever. I don't think. Of course, I say that about so many piercings, and then a year later, I'm like, I kind of want that piercing now. So really and truly, don't listen to me, because in a year's time, I could change my mind about it. But as of right now, I'm just not someone that would get that, just because that seems way too much of a headache for me to deal with. But I do think that they can look pretty good. I've seen some gnarly looking ones, so just if you're going to get it, make sure you are going to someone reputable who knows what they're doing, because I feel like that could go wrong so many different ways. But they do look pretty cool, and they can look pretty sweet depending on the jewelry that you have in there, but it is not for me.
Annika asks, is it normal to experience a sense of shame towards tattoo artists? Every time I get tattooed, I end up feeling like I've bothered them somehow, even if they were perfectly nice.
I felt kind of like this when I first started getting tattooed, when I was first going to the artist that I go to for pretty much all of my stuff now. I always thought my ideas weren't good enough, or that she wouldn't like them and she was just obliging me. But now that I know my artist, I know her well, I know what she enjoys tattooing, I don't feel that way anymore, and I don't feel that way with the other artists that I go to for things that aren't animal related. But I will say, in the beginning, when I first got my tiger tattoo, which was my first big piece, I thought I was bothering her. I absolutely thought that. Think of it this way. Your tattoo artist sees so many clients. They're not thinking that. I promise you, they're not thinking that. And if the artist didn't want to do something, they would tell you. They would say, hey, this really isn't my thing. If they accept your idea, they want to do it. They get to pick and choose what pieces they do and what they don't do. If your artist has accepted it and said, yes, let's do this, rest assured, you're not bothering them. But I get where your mindset is. I truly do. But just remember, they see a bunch of clients. There was an interaction that made you feel this way. Don't sweat it. It's probably no longer on their mind.
Neko Blade Sage asks, would you ever stretch your septum? And if yes, to what gauge?
I've thought about it. I've thought about going up just 1 to 14. I would totally be on board to do 14. I don't think I'd ever go big, maybe 12 would be the biggest I would go. But I've thought about doing 14. I just haven't. but I'm not against it.
Aguar asks, your opinion on septum flipping during healing.
I absolutely flipped mine when it was healing. I would flip it up while I was at work, and then I'd flip it home when I got in the evening. Wouldn't touch it until the next day that I went to work. So as long as you're not flipping it up and down like constantly during the healing phase, I see nothing wrong with it. And in fact, it can help it heal better, if that makes sense, because it's not in one position. So it's not in like this curved position or this curved position. But when you're doing it like just twice a day, it kind of helps it heal better. Does that make sense? Probably not, but you get where I'm getting to, right? I hope. I personally flipped mine when it was healing. I recommend it for other people. Just don't do it a lot. Like for me, it was literally twice a day. I flipped it up when I went to work, and as soon as I got off work, I flipped it down and then didn't touch it until I went back to work.
Memo Paris asks, I just got my left day doth done in July. How long should I wait for the other ear?
Do you mean that you're getting the day doth done on the other ear? Probably wait as long as it takes to heal, because if you're a side sleeper, you don't want to sleep on a piercing that's still healing, because that can really mess things up and slow down the process. So I would wait until that piercing is completely healed. If you're planning to get your day doth done on your right ear or any other piercing on your right ear, wait until the piercings on your left ear are healed.
Sarah asks, how did you clean your plug's tunnels when you were stretching?
I use the same kind of soap that I use on a tattoo when it's healing, and that is Dr. Bronner's soap. I'll insert a picture of it over here. It's like the unscented, gentle soap. I just use that cleanser, and I just have them in my hands, put a little soap in there, just do that with it, and then rinse them. Ta-da!
Live, Laugh, Love asks, what are your least favorite body piercings?
Probably any of those body piercings that are incredibly dangerous. I don't really have any like least favorite ones, but like those ones that like, have y'all seen the subclavicle ones? I think that's what they're called. Like it literally goes under your collarbone. I don't know why people do that. I really, ugh. I did a whole video about like dangerous piercings. Pretty much everything I listed in that, I don't like. Just because it's like, why? I think that would be at the top of my list, is the one that goes underneath your collarbone. Just why?
Mariska asks, what is the quickest way to get rid of swelling? My conch had a rough time and my ear is very swollen.
Tylenol helps. Maybe put an ice pack on it. Don't put like the ice pack directly on it. Like have a paper towel and wrap it and just kind of hold it there for very few minutes. Do not hold it there for very long, because you could end up doing more damage than good. But Tylenol really helps. Just a cold compress can help, and just keep up with your aftercare. I know it hurts and you're sitting there going like, my ear is gonna like explode or something, but just try not to do too much to it, because doing too much can prolong how long it stays swollen.
Rebecca asks, best type of jewelry for 2 forward helix piercings. Mine keep being angry with me.
Again, I'm not gonna be the person that ever recommends hoops, because I am not a fan of them in all types of piercings. There are small few piercings that I will like a hoop in, like a rook, mostly because I really want to hoop in mine right now just to see how it looks. But like for a forward helix, I just recommend a threadless labret. I mean, that's what I have in mine, and yeah, I don't think I'd recommend much else.
San asks, would you combine an inner conch and a daith doth piercing?
I think it depends on the placement and like the anatomy of your ear. If it's directly in line, it could potentially hit one another, but if you have like your conch a little bit more to the outside, it may not be so bad. Mine is not that way. You know, I've got a conch over here, but my daith is over on this side, so they don't have that problem. I don't see why you couldn't do that, and I don't see anything wrong with doing that. I think it just depends on like the anatomy of your ear, how big the jewelry is, and the placement of your conch.
Sincerely asks, I'm looking to start stretching ears. Can you share some tips and advice?
The biggest one is to go slow and don't use acrylic. Those are like my 2 biggest pieces of advice. I use tapers for my ear stretching. A lot of people will say don't use tapers. I had no problems with it. Whatever you're comfortable with. But I would say go slow, be patient. Ear stretching can take a long time. Be patient and don't use acrylic while it's healing.
Kawaii Amber asks, do you or did you wear ear cuffs or no?
I have never worn ear cuffs, but I'm not opposed to them. I just never did, but I'm not opposed to them, and I think they look pretty cute sometimes.
Serena asks, what length of stud would you recommend for sizing down a conch piercing?
So mine is 5/16 of an inch in length. It's actually kind of long, so like I probably could get away with 1/4 of an inch in length, but this does give it a little bit of room to like wiggle and everything like that. 1/4 might be a little tight, but mine is 5/16 of an inch, and I've never had problems with it. That's pretty much like the standard for length for conches.
Panda Bear asks, what tattoo is your favorite that you have?
I'm probably always gonna say my fruit bat. I absolutely love my little fruit bat. They're so cute, but it's kind of hard to pick because I love them all.
And the final question comes from Daniela. How many ear piercings is reasonable to get at the same time?
I recommend never going over 3 in one sit-in, and make sure you're doing it on the same ear. You don't want to get like 2 over here and 1 here, because if you're a side sleeper, that's really gonna mess up for you. So if you're gonna get multiple ear piercings in one set-in, 3 maximum, and it needs to all be on the same ear. And that is it for the questions for this month's Body Mod Q&A. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted a question. I love doing these videos, and I hope you all enjoyed them as well. Again, if you would like a question answered in October's Body Mod Q&A, leave them in the comments below, or follow me on Instagram and wait for me to put the little question box up so you can send the question over there.
Special thank you to my patrons. You can help support the channel on Patreon while having access to videos early, viewing patron-only content, and more. But that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big ol' thumbs up. Go on down there and hit that subscribe button, wherever it may be, because I don't know. Even though I do, this is just my shtick now. Also hit that notification bell in case you want to know when I upload, and in case YouTube wants to let you know when I upload, because I would really appreciate it. And until next time, bye guys!